Wow. So before I introduce Nina, everybody who is got their video, if everybody could wave on the count of 3, wave. Okay. Thank you. Hey, Debbie. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. This is our first virtual Inspiring Women's Luncheon, and we are so excited to have Nina here with us today. Nina was one of our most popular breakout session speakers, and she just came out with a book. I read it. It is awesome. Such a great book, an easy read. I recommend anyone read this book because it is great. And she released it early. Actually, it was supposed to come out in August, but given our situation, it's much more relevant now. So Nina Sossamon Pogue is a best-selling author, speaker, and former USA gymnast, which she talks about in her book. She was also an Emmy award-winning television news anchor and reporter who jumped from TV to tech. Nina spent 12 years on the leadership team where she helped lead her tech company through a hyper-growth expansion and a successful IPO. Those highs came with some life-changing lows. Nina is the author of This Is Not the End, Strategies to Get Through the Worst Chapters of Your Life, where Nina shares her proven approach to help you face life's hardships, grow from adversity, and control your own destiny. Last week, Nina presented a private session to students, and it was awesome. And I'm excited she is here with us today. Nina, thanks for being here today.
Patton, thanks so much for such a kind introduction. It is nice to see you. Your smiling face and so many faces there. I think I met some of you, as you mentioned, at the Whipple conference, and I think we have some folks who have heard me speak there, and a few of you said you've read my book, so thank you for taking the time to do that. I'm quite honored. This is an interesting time to get back together with that same sort of message of resilience. Now, when we did the session at Whipple, it was the Get to Your Goals session. So I wanted to sort of level set with on January 1st, and even at the Whipple conference when we all got together and we were trying to get to our goals, I'm pretty sure none of us had a goal of let's survive a pandemic. Like that was not part of our goals. So it makes for a perfect intro to this conversation and a follow-up to that, because what do you do when you can't get to the goals that you've set because something like this happens and you have to switch gears? So what I've said in some of my posts and some of the things I talk about in the book, it's like this plot twist that we're all in the middle of, and it's all going to be different for each of us. Where I want to start, though, with a little message of hope in the middle of all this, because you've been home. I'm guessing some of you are homeschooling kids. More power to you. I'm so glad my kids are in college. Now I just have to worry about them drinking all my liquor, but feeding them and messing up the house. But homeschooling is difficult. So more power to you, to all of you who are doing double duty and doing that. But we, in the middle of this right now, it's really hard. I actually had a call with someone this morning who said, it just keeps going. I just need this to end. I'm just struggling with it's another day, even though it's Friday, like Saturday doesn't even matter anymore. So what do I do? How do I feel? And while we're in the middle of this, it's really hard to
Dr. Brown told me I could go ahead and start taking the medicine because he said,
who said, there you go, she's muted. But take a medicine. But so in the middle of all this, when you are dealing with a lot of change and you're dealing with some frustration on the unknown, so we don't know when this is going to end. We don't know what we're going to do. Here's a thought for you. There will be a time where your beautiful faces will all be in the same room again. You will see each other. You will go out for coffee. We will have a conference. We will have face-to-face conversations. Maybe 5 years from now, when we all get together and we're chatting, there's going to be this turn in the conversation and people are going to say, oh, where were you? What did you do? Kind of like we do now when we get together, and I'm sure this happens for a lot of you. Someone at a coffee or grabbing some pizza or a glass of wine, someone says, oh, 9/11. And then everybody's like, oh, here's where I was. Here's my 9/11 story. So right now we're all building our pandemic 2020 stories. So 5 years from now, when we do get together and we're at another Whipple conference and Hatton's put on a great show and we're all walking around and enjoying it, we will have that conversation. And what we do right now becomes our story. It becomes our pandemic 2020 story. And so you want to be doing some things now so that you 5 years from now, when you have that conversation, has a good story to tell and it's something you're proud of. You know, did you stay safe? Did you help others? Did you pick up the phone and call and check on people? Did you wash your hands and do all the things that you can do? And so today I wanted to talk about why we are in this situation and hearing certain pieces of language in the news and how we handle this uncertainty and how we can feel better about that 5 years from now and how we get there. Part of what we're hearing is this word resilience. And it's kind of strange that I'm a resilience expert, a resilience resource, and I've been writing books and studying it for a couple of years now. And now all of a sudden it's like the word that you hear in the news every day. I'm not sure I said it many times at all when I did the news, and now it's in every newscast. But this word resilience. So I wrote a book about resilience, and I'm a resilient speaker, but there's a lot of people who've written books and who are speakers on grit or persistence. And those folks and those people who have that grit and persistence mentality, they're probably some of the folks, and that's a good way to get through things and to the other side, but they're probably some of the folks who are struggling the most right now. Because with grit and persistence, it's just keep going, go harder, double down on it, don't give up, keep pushing forward. Well, right now, we can't do what we've been doing and just go harder, double down on it. We all have to do something different because it's not an option anymore to just double down and go harder. So this word resilience is really important because it's not grit or persistence. It's got a different definition. Oh, wait, here's how I'm doing my slides today. You're going to like this. So our first slide is this one, resilience. So the word resilience, the key to this definition is the learn and adapt and grow stronger and with a positive attitude. Those pieces of the word resilience are very different, like my slides, are very different than the words persistence and grit. So when we think about that for ourselves, what does it mean, resilience, for each of us individually? And what does it mean for us, for our careers, for parenting, for all of this? And so what I'm talking about today is sort of this intersection of personal and professional resilience. Right now, as I mentioned, none of us can do what we said we were going to do on the very 1st of January when we set our goals, and we've all had to make changes. With this resilience word in mind, let's think about that. We all are adjusting and adapting to get to the other side. We are adjusting and adapting to survive in many instances, if you want to look at it that way. We can't keep just powering through. So what do we adjust? We've adjusted our schedules. We've learned to work from home. We've figured out Zoom as best as we can. We're still dealing with it. All of those things. So we're all doing things in new ways. And for any of you who've tried to teach your parents Zoom, what a riot is that? I mean, it's so funny. Like, push there. Like, my husband's mom I'm in tears crying every time I have to leave because it's not working. But we're all learning new things, even some folks who really, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. But as we adjust and learn and grow, we have to get our minds right around that. And if you came to my session, we all face adversity different ways. And I say we all face big problems and little problems. So there's well, let's start with the big thises. The big thises, called this in adversity. The all caps, THIS, all caps this. Those are the big things in life, like a divorce or a diagnosis of a horrible disease or death of a loved one or a horrific accident or trauma that you've suffered. Those are the big things that take your life in a new direction. And then there's the capital T thises, capital T, lowercase HIS. Those are you have a bad quarter, you break your leg so you can't train for something or go to work like you did. You have to change your life and you have to make adjustments because things didn't go as planned. Those are your capital T thises, but it doesn't change the whole course of your life. And then there's the lowercase thises, little THIS, all lowercase. Those are the traffic's bad, I spilled coffee into my computer, my kid jumped in the back of my Zoom call, like these days, like how you handle the little things that we're having to deal with. You're out of something and you can't go to the grocery store and you have to adjust the recipe, sort of like the everyday thises that we're all just learning to deal with right now. And I'm here to tell you how we handle the little ones, make us stronger for the harder ones, and help us become more resilient for the big ones, the all caps thises. And the all caps this pandemic, for almost everyone, isn't all caps this. It is something that's taking all of our lives in new directions. And what's interesting about it is it's not just our story. Unlike 9/11, it's taking all of our lives in new directions. People are being laid off or furloughed. They're being let go completely. They are losing people they love. They are dealing with people who are sick and they're scared for them. There's so much going on. How we go through those is our own story and our community story, and then this group's story. But unlike 9/11, which was a US story for the most part, this is a global story. Like, everybody in the world is doing this right now. We have this collective, giant global pandemic and this collective, giant global experience that we're having. So even if you go visit one of those tiny countries that I can't even say the name to, those people are going to have this story at the coffee shop 5 years from now too, because everybody's going through it. So this feeling of I'm stuck in this thing and it's happening to me, know that everybody is making adjustments right now. And the people who adjust and make changes are the ones to survive, are the ones who will get through this the best. So this word resilience is also tied to the word grief. And I want to talk about that for a moment before we go forward. This collective global thing, we're having this collective grief right now. And I think it's kind of fascinating. So there's lots of stages of grief. There's the beginning of grief, and they don't go in any certain, they don't go linear either, for those of you who know about grief, and we've all gone through things. There's no one on this call that hasn't dealt with something difficult. Life's just not easy. So whether it's a big this or a middle, we've all had to handle things. And some people have had to handle grief, and grief is not linear. There's different stages of grief, and all over the globe, not just China because it was there first, and then Spain, and then Italy, and then us, but all over the globe, depending on when it hit and depending on your own experience, your experience of grief and how you're handling with grief is very uniquely yours. So grief has lots of pieces. First, it's the denial piece, which we all probably went through. This isn't going to happen to me. We're not going to really cancel class. I'm not really going to have to do this online. Like, wait, Disney's closed? Holy crap. Like, there's that denial piece that we all went through. And then there's the anger piece. They're taking away my sports. I can't go to class. I have to, stay home the whole semester. I have to homeschool my kids. Like, just the anger. I'm going to be around my husband 24/7. Like, so there's the anger piece that we go through. And then there's the bargaining. And we all did this one bargain. I think everybody probably did this same one. Like, oh, if I stay home 2 weeks, then I can go back to work. Like, or then life will go back. If we all just stay home, then we can, remember that 2 weeks, we were all bargaining for 2 weeks. If we just stay home for a few weeks, then we can all get back to life. And now there's still this uncertainty. So we all did the bargaining, and we did the sadness, which is a stage of grief. I'm sad that I'm missing out on things. I'm sad for my friends who are missing out on things. I'm sad that people are losing their jobs, sad that people are ill or dying, losing loved ones. We have the sadness that we've all gone through in different ways. And those pieces of grief, you kind of bounce back and forth to different ones. There are days when you might get past the sadness and back to the anger again. Or maybe back to the denial, but we're all in this grief. And then the last piece of grief, which is really key for this conversation, the last piece of grief is acceptance. And acceptance is where the power is. So once we bounce around all of there and we get to the acceptance piece and go, okay, this is my new reality. And this has happened and it is out of my control. Let's think of what I can control. What can I do in this situation to get through it, to set myself up for success in the future? I can wash my hands. I can stay home. I can learn how to do a darn Zoom call. I can figure things out. I can figure out how to homeschool my kids. I can buy a bunch of groceries and have Instacart deliver them, or I can send a friend to the grocery store, and most of the products I like are not exactly what they bring here, and I will figure out a recipe anyway. Like, we're all figuring it out. That acceptance piece is really key. And so what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to give you 3 big picture concepts to go through that acceptance piece. Before I do, I'm going to give you my backstory. For those of you who weren't in my session, when we talk about these big thises, why me? Why did I go down this road? Why did I write a book on it? I've had great success. If you read my resume on LinkedIn, it looks like I've, rock started through life. But along with the great successes, I've had some real low lows. And my book and what I talk about is more about the low lows. It's the stuff you don't see on Facebook and Instagram. You know, you think all your friends are having these great vacations and their children are perfect. Like, you don't put the other stuff on Instagram and Facebook. So my book is about the other piece of it. And my backstory, so Hatton gave me a lovely intro. Thank you, Hatton. But my backstory is, here, another slide for you. Here we go. Here, there you go. So my backstory is varied. So I was a member of the US Gymnastics team. There's cute little Mina. Member of the US Gymnastics team, and then I blew out my knee and didn't make it. But then I went on. I was an athlete. I was a news reporter for years, and then I was a news anchor and won an Emmy. And then I went on and was at a tech startup. And at that tech startup, we went to NASDAQ and we rang the bell and we had great success there. So this is my success slide. I look like I've had a pretty charmed life. And most people who meet me know this piece because that's what they know. Now, as I mentioned, what I talk about and why resilience is so key and why I am getting through this, not perfectly, all of us are getting it through in their own way, but why I'm getting through this in a strong position and I have some built up some muscle to get through this is because of the things that I've gone through. So here's the other slide. So this is the same slide with my fails on top of it. So that's when I blew out my knee and did not actually blew out my knee in college. So I was a member of the US team, but I didn't make the Olympics, just wasn't the top four, top six it was back then. And then I went to college, blew out my knee. That's me on a mat, like with the paramedics working on me. And then I was a strong reporter and a news anchor, and I got fired at the top of my game. I won Charleston's favorite news anchor on a Thursday and was let go in a budget cut the next day. And then you see, I went on and I went back on the air. I found a new TV station after getting fired. And then I was involved in a pretty horrific accident. I'll share a little bit more on that. And then I went on from there and got into tech and had great success. So the downs really tell my story more than the ups do. And for those of you who weren't in my session, I always hate to share this story early in a presentation because I think it's like a gut punch. And it's been 15 years for me, so I can share it, but I'm going to share it with you now. That accident, I'm a world-class athlete and Charleston's favorite news anchor 10 years in a row. Thank you to the sweet friend who said earlier she grew up watching me. So I went from that to coming home one day, went to pick up my son at the bus stop, and in the hustle and bustle of a crowded bus stop, pick up my son, he jumps in the car, we're gonna go run errands, juice box, how was your day? And we go to leave, and in the bustle of a very busy bus stop, no one had noticed that a friend's baby had crawled onto the driveway, and I backed up. And so I went from being this world-class athlete and this woman who everyone knew as this news anchor that was pretty joyful and cheerful and kind in my own way to this really, to the person who had done this thing, who had run over a child. Now, fast forward 15 years, he survived. He's healthy, happy 15-year-old kid. We all got through it and we all grew and got stronger through it. His parents, myself, I went back on the air. So we got through that. But at that time, in that moment, and for the months that followed, there was a time there where you think, it's never going to be okay again. Like the world is never going to be okay again. I just can't see any way out. And so I talk about that in this book. It's the first time I've talked about it. I put it in there. So I could share that with other people who have that feeling like it's just never going to be okay again. And right now, in the middle of this, I think a lot of people feel like it's just never going to be okay again. My mother, she had a cruise to Alaska she had saved for. She's 85 years old. She had saved for this thing for years, and she was supposed to go next month. And even this morning, she's like, they say international travel is not going to ever come back in my lifetime. I'm going to die before I can take this. I mean, she's just like really down. And I was like, Mom, we don't know yet, and we'll do some trips. We'll figure it out. But in the moment, a lot of us can't see that it's ever going to be okay again. We can't even picture that cafe 5 years from now where we get together for pizza and wine and we are having that conversation. So as we go through these things, I sort of become an authority on, and yes, it does. It feels like crap right now, and let me help you figure out how to not feel like crap. So on the other side of it, you come out okay. and not just okay, but stronger. You want to come out of this more resilient. All the little stuff you're handling right now is making you stronger already. Think about it. When the grocery store opens back up, it's going to be easier. You're never going to complain about the grocery store and the shopping and trying to find anything again. Cooking, you've probably all amended meals and figured out things. You've become a more resilient chef. I'm not a chef in any way, shape, or form. I make food. I can make some things and not, starve to death. So we're all becoming more resilient. You got me? Did you lose me? Did you lose me, Hatton?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. A weird thing came up on my that said my connection was unusable. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't talking to myself. Anyway, so there we go. We're keeping going. So we all become more resilient as we go through these things, and we're all actually becoming more resilient right now just by going through this. And there are some things you can do while you're in it to buff up those skills a little bit. I'm going to give you 3 big picture things. For those of you who are in my session, we're going to do this again. So picture the book of your life. Okay, everybody in here is writing your own story right now, as I mentioned. The book of your life. How big is that book? Is it a big, thick book? Is it a hardback? Is it a softback? Maybe it's a children's book. Maybe it has lots of volumes like Harry Potter or something, and we're in a certain volume. But what does the story of your life look like? What book? Right? Everybody got it in your head? Pick a color for the cover of it. Okay. All right. Now open that book, your book, to today. The page that we're on in your book. So some of you, if you're in your 20s, you're more towards the beginning of your book. Some of you who are in your 50s like me are in the middle, just the middle of your book. And for some of you who are older than I am, you may be a little further on in your book, but we're all in a page. So that page is open to today. And this is kind of cool. We're all having a crossover moment right now. We're all in each other's books. It's like that episode where Supergirl's on the same one with the Flash. And you're like, wait. So we're having a crossover moment in each other's books right now. But what's really cool about it, and that book, so everything that you are and what you've learned and how resilient you are, all of that has been in the story up till now. And at this moment, we're on a page of today. And then everything ahead, all of those pages in that amazing book of your life, it's all blank. There's nothing on those pages. You are going to decide what goes on them. You're going to decide the words that are used and the settings and the people. That's all within your control still, even in our current situation. You will make those decisions. The first thing you'll decide on of our 3 things today is the language. What language are you using? The language you use in your book is really in your control. Like what's in your head comes out of your mouth and then becomes your story. Are you safe at home or are you stuck at home? When people are let go, and when we all have those conversations right now that we're saying, when people are let go from their work, this conversation happens a lot. And I have lots of friends. My former company let go 250 people a few weeks ago, and I got a call from at least a dozen different people. Some who had read my book and had gone through this, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I knew this. Others that said, I'm really struggling. Can you help me? So when you're let go or furloughed or fired, like whatever language you use in your head or some big change, how you talk about that is really key to where your story is now and to your success in the future. So let me give you this scenario. Carol, I don't know if there's somebody getting Carol in here. I tried to pick a name that wasn't one, but Carol gets let go from a job. And so she goes home, and in the office, whoever's left, they all look around to each other like, somebody call and check on her, make sure she's okay. So somebody draws the short straw and has to make that phone call. And they call, and they're like, so say Sue draws the short straw, and Sue says, hey, Carol, why do I do this? Is this still a thing? I don't know why. But hey, Carol. Hey, Carol. I'm going to play telephone like a little kid. Hey, Carol, how are you? How's going on? And then Carol on the other end says, well, I didn't see this coming. And, Barb doesn't work as hard as me. And Hatton's a slacker. And Kristen doesn't do her part. Now I'm just using your names because it's fun. So they're like, this isn't fair. And Bob is a jerk of a boss anyway. And I can't believe, like, they just are not in a good place. And I don't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to feed my kids. And this whole string comes out of their mouth. That comes out, they hang up the phone. Someone in the office asks Sue, hey, how's Carol doing? And Sue says, whew, she is not happy. And she's like, none of you are nice people either. And she's super mad, didn't see this coming. And she doesn't know how she's going to feed her kids. I mean, that's what comes out there. That's the story. Same situation. Sue draws the short straw. She calls Carol. Carol picks up her finger phone. Carol picks up the phone and Carol says, wow, I didn't see that coming. I don't know what I'm going to do. But, really good luck to the rest of you guys. And it sure was fabulous to be there while I was, and tough time for everybody. And hey, let everybody know I wish them well, but let them know I'm looking. If anybody knows anybody who's hiring, I do need something. I got to find something to do. But, thanks for calling and checking on me. Hangs up the phone. Then Sue, when someone asks, hey, how's Carol doing? Sue goes, oh, she's, she didn't see it coming, but she's, managing, and she wishes us all well. And if anybody knows of anything, she's looking. It's the same scenario, but the language in her head came out of her mouth and created her future. So all of us, as we go through this, are doing that, whether it's safe or stuck, or whether it's talking to our friends and we're creating our story right now. And it's really key, the language that you use. And in this situation where so much is going to change that's out of our control, we owe it to our future self, the self 5 years from now, to make some good choices about the words that we're using. Helps with your children too. The language that you use becomes the language they use about this. So in a lot of different situations. I think I told some of you before on the call, I've got 3 college kids, one that would have been graduating next week. I've got one that she's had a great date for spring formal and was super excited about, and was on the dance group in her sorority and was leading it. Like all of these things she'd been planning on for forever, just didn't happen. And another one that was playing club basketball. I mean, they all have their own things they're dealing with, but the language that we use at home becomes their language. We're practicing gratitude. I remind them, hey, no one asked you to be sent off to war, in this national crisis. They just asked you to stay home. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world. And this sucks for everybody. It sucks for your friends. It just is. So their language becomes their story, just like your language becomes your story. And you really do influence your children on how you do that. So that's one big piece. It's this language piece. The second one that you do have some control over too is this concept of control and what should I be doing now? I am going to admit to all of you lovely women, just because I'm guessing I'm not the only one. I have days where I'm really good. I have days where I'm not. There have been several days in a row. I'm like, okay, tonight's the night. I'm not going to grab a glass of wine. I'm just going to go I'm going to clean out that closet, or I'm going to do a scrapbook, or I'm going to make something. Yeah, that doesn't always happen. So I have good days and bad days like everybody. I am highly recommending that if you are a person who is not uber productive and you're watching everybody else do this, that you stop beating yourself up. You do not have to be uber productive. You do not have to learn a new language during the pandemic. So that's your story. You don't have to learn to knit or crochet or whatever it is that you feel like you should be doing. Some people will, and that's fantastic. But everybody doesn't have to do that. You need to get through how you need to get through. And if it means having days where you just need to eat some Fritos and have a glass of wine, guilty. Then that is it. And other days I'm super in and I'm healthy and I walk and I work out and I call and check on friends and I have really good responsible days. But there are some days where I just need a little anti-self-care, where I'm just kind of being me, and that's fine too. So I am a big proponent of what you do during this time. But here's the key to this piece, the second piece of what you have control over. You are the CEO of you. You are making these decisions. No one has more control over your future than you do. So you, as the CEO of you, you set the vision. Where do you want to be 5 years from now, a year from now, a month from now? Set it. Where do you want to be? And then you look at your resources, your people, where you are, your situation you're living in, the food you're ordering, your friends. You adjust as needed to get to that vision. So if you have a lot of people around you who are super negative, and you're calling and you're taking that all on every day because you become the dumping ground, maybe adjust that. If you have your TV on all day long and you're listening to all the negative news and getting scared, maybe you adjust that. If you look at your whole setting and go, I do want to do this and I want to get healthier and walk and work out and lose weight, you have control over that. you can, order some weights online, or there's a new little game where you sit on it in a plank and you play a video game. I don't know if you've seen that. That commercial keeps coming into my Facebook feed. I don't know why, but there's all sorts of things you can do. I did not order it. I chose not to. As the CEO of me, I did not go there, but you have a choice of what you can do as the CEO of you. You look at all of your resources, your people, and your setting, and your ability to go out into the world, and you decide what works and what doesn't, and you make adjustments. And we're all doing that every day, and we have control over that as the CEOs of ourselves. And then the next piece is this time concept. And I talked about this a little bit during my session there, and I think it's so important during this. When you look at the time of this, some people are handling better than others just because they have a longer life to put it into. So if you're in your 20s, and I did this with the young people that I was on the call with the other day, all the students. If you're in your 20s and this is happening to you, and you take this 4 months, 3-4 months right now in your 20s, say 3 months. 3 months in your 20s is one, at that point, you're born and you get to be 20 years of experience of a whole life. That's all you know. This 3 months is 1.25%. I did the math. 1.25% of that whole thing. If you are 80 and you're going through this 3 months is 0.3. It's like a tiny little zip on the map. It's barely registering. So this same amount of time feels different. In my keynote, and for some of you, this is the part where I said, remember how fantastic summers were when you were 10? Like, it just felt like the days went on forever, like that magical time when you're 10 years old and you get to be out in the world and hang out with friends and the days are really long. And then you're 40 and you go through a summer and you're like, boom, where did that go? Like, how did that summer go by so fast? Wait, I want it back. So why is it? When you're 10, that year of your life is 1/10 of everything you know in life. 1/10. When you're 40, that year is 1/40th of everything you know in life. Same 365 days. You just have more to compare it to. It just feels different. So it does feel like the time is zooming by. And if you're a 40-year-old parenting a 10-year-old and that 10-year-old's telling you you're ruining my life, they really feel like that. So it's just a way to look at things that's really fascinating while you're in the middle of this. And so if you are in the middle of this pandemic and feeling like the days are just dragging on and this is like becoming your whole life, and you have a couple of things to look at here to set some perspective. 1, in the book of your life, where is it? And 2, where am I in my life and why does it feel like it does? Because maybe it just feels so much bigger because maybe I haven't been through a lot of really difficult things. So I haven't built up that resilience muscle. Or maybe I'm just younger and it is a big chunk. I mean, it is a big chunk, feels like a huge chunk of my life right now. So keep that in mind as you're dealing with people. Everybody is dealing with this in their own way. We all have different scenarios and things that we're doing. I'm checking my time here. And I'm almost to the end of it. So that is the big picture of this. When you look at where you are in this pandemic, and when you look back at the story that you're making and where you're going to be 5 years from now, you are choosing the language and deciding what you're calling it, safe at home, stuck at home. You are being the CEO of you. You still have things you're in control of. You still have choices you can make, and that's totally up to you. If you come out of this on the other side and everything's gone south because you made those choices, you're making them. It's harsh to hear, but it's true. Like, I put my jeans on yesterday. It was bad. It was like, okay, I have made some poor choices. That was really not the best thing. I'm hoping I have plenty more time to get back into those, or I got to change and buy some new ones. And then you are placing this in your story of your life, in that big book of your life. I'm going to end on this thought. That big, big book of your life. Envision it again. This is just one chapter. It is not your whole book. It feels like it's the whole book right now because we've just gone through another week and it's Friday morning and holy crap, now we got the weekends and the kids aren't even going to have class, like whatever it is that you, like, weekends don't even count. Like, it feels like a lot right now, but it's not your whole book. It is one chapter, and this chapter will come and it will go, and there are other chapters ahead, and they're going to be happy, and they're going to be sad, and they're going to be exciting, and they're going to be hard. I mean, because that's life. But this chapter will come and go. It doesn't last forever. And so I wanted to leave you with that thought on this Friday lunch hour. And I'll throw it with that thought back over to Hatton for any questions you guys may have.
Thank you so much, Nina. That was fantastic. And if anyone has any questions, all you need to do, if you click on participants, there is an option that says raise your hand, and I will let people ask their questions in the order that they come in, and unmute you, and you can ask your question or make a comment to the group. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can also type one, and I will be happy to ask it as well. I think one thing that I found really interesting about your book, and I think it's a great concept to have when something big does happen. You talk about having a script so you're prepared to use the right language to share your story. So I don't know if you could talk about that a little bit. I think that's something that really resonated with me, is just saying you can control that script and how you need to do that. So
yeah, and it's key. It's like that stay at home, stuck at home or safe at home language. And it's a part of the getting fired piece. That's part of your script too. But one thing that everyone, I mean, you probably talk to people throughout the day. I hope somebody's checking in on you, or you're checking in on folks, or all of you are talking to someone. And everybody starts every conversation with, how you doing? So what is your how you doing sentence? What are you saying these days? Think about it. What is the language when someone says, how you doing? What are you saying? And you can be honest. I mean, you can say, I'm struggling today. I mean, that's good to say. You need to share that with people. But just spend some time thinking about what are the words that you're using when someone says, how you doing? And then how that really represents what you want to be remembered for down the road. I find myself most of the time going, I'm doing like everybody else is. I'm getting through. I'm actually, some days I'm having good days. I mean, there are days where I think, oh gosh, I'm so glad I don't have to get up and go to work today. Like, well, I have to fit into those jeans. That would be bad. A little thankful for that right now. So yeah, so your language, just your language about when you answer that question, how you doing? Think about that and craft a sentence that you are proud of. And that's helpful for your own mind and helpful for the people that you're talking to too. Maybe it's, I'm actually having a good day. It's Friday and I'm kind of looking forward to the weekend. You can be optimistic in the middle of this, and that's okay too. And then you can flip it back around. How are you doing? So, and maybe they just need to share that they're not having a good day, or maybe they go, oh, wow, I found one other person that's actually saying nice things too. Yeah. Like, there's an ice cream truck at the front of my neighborhood. We rode our bikes up there today, and I haven't had to put on shoes in a month, and my toes look great. Whatever. I mean, there are other people who are having some moments that are good. And there are people who are really, really struggling. This chapter in some people's books is going to be a really sad, difficult, devastating chapter. They're going to lose jobs. They're going to lose loved ones. It's going to be a hard chapter. So maybe think about that too when you talk to someone. I'll add this to Hatton. It's not exactly your question, but someone said to me about whole smiling and being happy piece. It's really important. You do smile sometimes, and you do find some joy and fun in your day. It's good for your brain. But there's a lot of memes and funny stuff going around. And as we are entering this part where the deaths are higher and higher, and there are more and more really horrific stories coming out because we're at that point of this pandemic, just be careful what you share openly on social media. Because what is funny to you right now may not be funny to someone who you don't even realize, who is a friend or a friend of a friend who sees it, who's in the middle of a really bad part of this. So thoughtful, just be super thoughtful during these next few weeks, where you go with that. Because some people are already cheering it's over and happy, and other people are, wait. Like, I just lost my sister yesterday or something like that. So we got to make sure we're being really cognizant of the world that's around us.
I think that's a really important message, and we are all going through this together. So if anyone has any more questions,
I didn't put my glasses down, and I'm like, I don't know where they went, so I can't read the chat.
I'm reading the chat, and mostly are really nice comments, but no questions so far. If anybody has any questions, just raise your hand, and I'll unmute you, or you can write a message in the comments.
These are my broken glasses. This is another thing. This is my pandemic problem. I keep losing arms to my glasses because I keep taking them off. So I have 3 pair of glasses with 1 arm right now.
Oh no.
So, who knew that was going to be part of my problem right now? It's really not that big a deal.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing. I don't even know if I don't even have the hand thing over here. Can you see it? Can you all see it?
I don't see it. I will share one other concept before we finish up.
Okay.
That I have some folks. So some people say, what do I do when I get that really anxious moment? When I'm really in a panicky state, or when I'm struggling to, like, with them in a moment? Because I've had some too where I'm like, why am I so anxious right now? And some of you might be like this too. I'll get up and go, I don't really have that much to do today, but I've got so much to do today. And then you're busy all day long, and then you finish and you're like, what did I do today? Like, you know, it's like, oh, just mushes. It's like this weird Groundhog Day. Like, it's just bizarre. But if you are in these moments and you're like, I'm super anxious right now and I don't know why, or can't figure out what it is, it's really important that you take a moment to figure out what it is. It could be TV in the background with a lot of, spewing a lot of scary stuff that you're just not really focusing on, but it's there. It could be the person you're talking to is super negative and just dumping it all on you, and you're taking it all on. There's a lot of things. So understanding where your anxiety is coming from, and like, when it hits you, just going, whoa, 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 why am I feeling like this? And then changing, like turning off the TV, or telling that person, I love you, but I need a break right now. Like, that making that change for yourself is really important in the middle of this. And 2 things that I do, because I'm not be serene. Like, people like, oh, Nina, you just be serene, calm your mind. Like, there's all kinds of crap going on up here. I have a really hard time calming my mind. If you're like that, here's 2 things you can do. So one that I do when I can't kind of calm it all down is I do the 3 deep breaths, and it's actually physiologically changes what's going on in your body and your brain and the chemicals going through your body. So if you are in your 50s and there's a great book, or anybody, but for women in your 50s who can't figure out why you can't lose weight, because that's me, I read this book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Fantastic read. It's a little heavy, but it's interesting. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it's all about, like, we all came, evolved from animals, and when a zebra is running across being chased by a lion, running across the field, it releases all the cortisol and the things that it needs to survive, and we're living in our lives like we're being chased all the time. We're always living in this state of fear, or this state of fight or flight, like we're running away from something, or running to survive, or working to survive. So we are constantly releasing all of that. When a zebra is running across the field, it can't stop and take deep breaths. So if you stop and you take 3 deep breaths, it actually tricks your body to go, oh, you're actually not in trouble right now. No one's chasing you. Like, you're okay. I usually put my fingers over my ears so I can hear it, and like my brain really registers, wait, no one's chasing me right now. Physically sitting in a chair, talking to a bunch of amazing women. Why am I anxious? Like, there's no lion chasing me. So that's one thing that I do that really, it physiologically changes. And the other thing I do seems really crazy. I was actually dancing around in my kitchen. I had a moment yesterday where I was just a little cray-cray, and I was dancing around in my kitchen, and I thought, if my neighbors ever looked in here, they'd think I was just lost it. But I dance around a little bit, but I smile. So this thought of smiling is just of course you just smile, but smiling actually is physiologically changes your makeup as well. So smiling sets off these neuropeptides in your brain, and the dopamine is released, and you physically put stuff in your body you need. I find myself a lot of nights before I go to bed, glad it's dark and my husband can't see me, I just smile, like find one thing to be grateful for and just throw a big smile on my face, because then I lay down and I'm like, oh, like really physically makes you feel better. So in the moments where you're really struggling, figure out what it is and step away from it, and then go be crazy. You can join me in my crazy and smile off in a corner somewhere if you need to, because it is helping you. Your brain, it will change what's happening in your brain. It will change the way your body feels. It helps.
I love that. I know I've been trying to take walks outside and I leave my phone.
And I'm
It's so
back.
freeing. Oh, can you not hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know why I'm moving my computer. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I got you. Yep.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. First from Terry, this is a great one. Hi, Terry. I don't think I can see you, but I'm glad you were able to join us today. So she says, however, sometimes when you feel, well, she said, loved everything I heard, feels better thinking about the positive. However, sometimes when you feel positive and others with you are not, how do you communicate that without demeaning them?
Yeah, so my daughter actually called me with this the other day. She's like, Mom, I feel like I'm not allowed to be happy. Like I need to be worried all the time and I'm not allowed to be happy. And I was like, well, that's not true. You're allowed to be happy. And if people around you are in, angry mode or in worry mode or in sad mode, that's their choice. And you need to, we all need to be happier. So I think without demeaning people, you can be optimistic. Optimism is not head in the sand that you don't think things are, that you're not aware of things. You can be fully informed and still optimistic. Fully informed and optimistic, and it's fine. You can be fully informed and pessimistic at the same time. It's a choice. So one of the things that you can think about as you are around a bunch of people and you want to say something, but you're like, they're just going to, be the, they're going to look at me like I'm the downer, like I'm not paying attention. Is this what energy? You can always say whatever it is that you're thinking, and just as if, as your own feeling. I'm feeling this, and share it as your feeling, because nobody can deny that. But I raised my kids, and I always tell people, I've managed a lot of teams and a lot of young people, and I always say, when you step into a group, for my son, I used to say, when you step into that dugout, you are either adding energy or taking energy. So when you step into that group, people are either complaining and you're needing to build them up, or you're the complainer and people are needing to build you up. If you're all complaining and you're just tearing it all, just going down in a scary place altogether, it's just not a place you want to be a part of. So I think that if you're an optimistic person, step in and build those people up. I think it's our duty as the optimists on the planet to do that in our own way. But if you just go along with it, you're not helping. And if you have that feeling and you are, I'd say brave enough to just share it as your own feeling, then go ahead and put it out there, because there might be somebody in there that actually wants a little optimism, is looking for that. Right now, people are looking for that. They're looking for someone to, say something that's not so scary. And there are good things you can find in this. So that would be my thought on that. Just think about the energy in that space that you're stepping into, and you're allowed to be the optimist. And I encourage my daughter to be the optimist. And then she had one of the young women that she's hunkered down with who was just mean all the time. And she said, yeah, she just got sick of me. I said, well, what did you do? And she said she does her own thing and I do my own thing. And then every once in a while she'll come plop into my room and just need a little bit of my joy. And I said, there you go. That's your job. Just let her plop down on your, bed and just be you. So, it doesn't mean you're not paying attention if you're optimistic. It just means you're choosing to find some ways to get through this in a more optimistic manner.
Love that.
Question.
Maylee.
Hi. So I was in the student one last week with Teal Goes Pink, and that was awesome. So it's kind of nice to hear like a little bit of different point of view. You're talking about anxiety. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about the application called TikTok. It has blown up seriously since this quarantine happened, and it's not anymore just like funny videos with the younger kids on it. They're all age types on it. And when my friends passed this along with me, we just presented an international research presentation today. And we've been working 8 months on it. And she sent it to me the night before. And it's this TikTok on anxiety. And it's about understanding it, attacking it, accepting it, and using anxiety as your power rather than your weakness. So it's like 30 seconds to a minute. I'm going to share it with you guys. It just kind of piggybacked off of like what you're saying, and having that video with what you said made lots of connections. So thank you.
I love it. Are you going to share the link in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah, share
Yes,
the link in the chat. Kristen, will you grab that for me? I want to see it too. Fun.
We'll have to watch this.
And there's there's the whole good news segments going on. There's good stuff going on out there. People are trying to infuse that in there with all the scary. And I've said this several times, and if you've ever heard me speak, I'm sure you've heard me say it. I did news for 20 years. News is looking for the bad stuff. That is the news cycle. They're going to continue to find scary stuff to share with you because that's what news is. It's never been traditionally, or even when they've tried to do good news, that's not what people tune in for. So they're going to continue to have a 24-hour news cycle and find numbers and stats and scary stuff and studies and like everything to share with you. And you have to make yourself step away. And and you can find this, people who are journalists, people who are cops, people who are nurses, doctors, people who live in the drama of everyday life, they know to step away because there's always more sadness and more drama and more stuff out there. On the days when all of us were going about our business before this pandemic, somewhere in the world, people were starving, people were undergoing violence, there was stuff going on. And if you'd been watching that all day long every day, it would have been part of your world. So it's not too dissimilar than that. You need to be safe now, but you need to step away from it sometimes to keep yourself healthy, because if you let all that in, it's not good. Doctors step away, nurses step away, cops know to step away, and you still get to have some happiness and some joy in your life.
Love that. And that is a good note to end on. Thank you so much for being with us today, Nina. This was incredible. And it was good to see all of your faces. Thank you for joining us today. And I think all of you have my email address. Feel free to reach out to me with feedback. Tell us if you have any suggestions. If you want to send a note along to Nina, I can pass that along as well. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you all soon, either in another virtual event or in person.
Thanks, Hatton. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.